Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Million Pound Mission Podcast. It's your buddy Adam, the PhD, the previously heavy dude, and this is episode number 312, The Lies Your Doctor is Telling You, with Dr. Ken Berry. I can't wait to dive into this one, but first, breaking news, ladies and gents, we have just opened up the ticket sales for Million Pound Mission Live 2020. It's going down October 2nd and 3rd in the lovely hometown of the PhD himself, Bloomington, Indiana. We're doing it again. We rocked it last year, and I have been so excited to open up registration for this. Just really, really excited to see you guys in person, to give you a hug, to give you a high five, and to give you the best that I've got for 2 days. Last year was just a one-day event. We have expanded, ladies and gentlemen. I want to bring more of my friends in to speak to you, to teach to you, and to level you up. You can get all the info at millionpoundmission.com. We've got early bird ticket pricing going on right now. Hit that, get that ticket before the prices go up, millionpoundmission.com. I'll be talking about this more over the upcoming weeks as we book more speakers and get everything cinched in as far as all the details, but just know it's going to be amazing and you need to be there. All right, millionpoundmission.com. Let's talk about Dr. Ken Berry now. Have you guys ever found yourself in the situation where you chose to just blindly trust the advice of your doctor and basically, whatever they're telling you about nutrition, health, fitness, but deep down, you just didn't totally agree with it, right? I think that a lot of us go to our medical professionals and we're looking for guidance that we can trust, and we want validation that we're doing the things that are going to keep us healthy for a long time, right? The stuff that's going to keep us alive. Like, we want the doctors to be like, yes, you're on the right track. You will not die because of the things that you are doing. So today, I'm bringing in Dr. Ken Berry to talk about why many well-meaning doctors are out there telling their patients lies about the way they should be eating. All right, this could be potentially a controversial topic for some of you guys out there. Now, Dr. Ken is a physician that is on a mission to help as many people as possible get healthy via optimum nutrition and a low carbohydrate, high fat lifestyle. He's the author of the book, Lies My Doctor Told Me, and he can be seen speaking at health events across the country. I just got to hang out with him at Keto Summit Omaha. We shared a house, and we shared an Uber. We hunted for butcher shops together. We bonded over meat, which is the base of every great friendship, in my opinion. Now, in this episode, we really dive deep. And my goal this episode is, Dr. Ken can just get after it. He can educate like none other. So in a lot of my shows, I do a lot of talking and there's a lot of back and forth. And in this one, my goal was just to stoke the fire, just to get him going and stoke the fire along the way. So a lot of this is just Dr. Ken dropping knowledge, and that's exactly what I wanted. And he really over-delivered. So we talk about his own journey to health as he found a low carbohydrate, paleo, then keto, now carnivore lifestyle, and the results that he's had from that. We talk about the biggest misconceptions that around going low carb that he wants to just destroy, and he really dove deep on that. We talk about how to effectively communicate with a doctor that is not on board with a low carb, high fat lifestyle. That's one of the biggest questions I get from you guys is like, I went keto, but my doctor's on me about my cholesterol. It's freaking me out. How do I negotiate this whole conversation? So we get the doctor's advice on that. Then at the end, he closes strong, as can be expected with Dr. Ken. He gave us 3 basic steps that anyone can take to improve their health right now. And you guys know I love implementation. I love action steps. And again, Dr. Ken really delivered. This is a great conversation. Again, Dr. Ken just really, really gives us what we need to hear. We need clarity. We need confidence from our medical professionals. And it's just so nice to have a medical professional saying, okay, your heart is not going to explode from going keto. You're not going to have, insane problems from these cholesterol levels and things like that. So I think you guys are really going to like this, especially if you're kind of keto curious or if you're in the low carb community. This is going to add some nice peace of mind. So without any further delay, let's dive into episode number 312, The Lies Your Doctor is Telling You, with Dr. Ken Berry. All right, Dr. Ken Berry, welcome to the Million Pound Mission podcast. How are we doing today, my friend?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on.
Well, you're somebody that's been on my wish list for a while, and we finally got connected in person at the Savage Mansion, the house built of keto bricks. Robert
Yes.
Sykes brought that together in Omaha, Nebraska. We shared an Uber. We scouted out meat markets and butcher shops. I mean, I feel like we bonded over meat.
Uh,
Uh,
yeah, we search for meat, as any two good hunters should do.
and I knew that we had a good base for our friendship from there.
Yeah,
So friendship based
definitely.
on meat is always good, is what I say.
You can never go wrong with that. Yeah.
So you have an interesting story of your own. I refer to myself as the PhD, the previously heavy dude, but you have earned that PhD status as well. So maybe I thought we'd start a little bit with that before we dive into all the medical stuff.
Sure. Yeah. So at my most unhealthy point in my life, which was in my mid to late 30s, I was morbidly obese, pre-diabetic, very inflamed, had flaming rosacea, and some people may not know what that is, but if you got it, you definitely know what I mean by that. Had chronic eczema. I had just every joint ached. I just felt miserable all the time, and mentally, I was very irritable. I was never, you couldn't please me. I was never satisfied. I was always upset about something, and I was the doctor. So it's like the mechanic. You're driving down the road and you pass your mechanic waving on the side of the road with his flashers on, like, "Hey, pick me up, buddy." That was me, and because I'm the guy that's entrusted with the care and the feeding and the health of other human beings, and I couldn't even take care of my own health because I was practicing medicine and practicing nutrition under an old model, an old paradigm that was faddish for about the last 50 or 60 years, but is now quickly falling out of favor because people are finding out that when they stop doing those things and start doing other things, they regain their health. And so I started looking around, bumping around, looking, and I found Mark Sisson, and I found Robert Atkins, and I found Lauren Cordain, and I read a book by each of those, and that kind of began me on this paleo, primal, ancestral, bulletproof, low carb, keto, carnivore journey. And now at 51, that's how, still doesn't sound right because I don't feel that, but I am at the lightest weight. I was at my heaviest. I was 297, and this morning I'm 230 pounds, which is the lightest I've been in over 3 decades.
That's incredible. And you,
A1C is in the low fives.
yes.
I literally woke up this morning and hopped out of bed like a teenager, no joint pain, no stiffness whatsoever. It's amazing how when you stop poisoning the human animal and feed it the proper human diet, everything just gets better and kind of goes back to normal and kind of goes back to optimal. It's really amazing, but also makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and if you guys deep dive on Dr. Berry like I have here, you can actually see you looking younger in your more recent videos and posts.
Yeah,
Like you're actually aging in reverse, which is
yeah,
kind of the
yeah.
holy grail as far as a lot of people that are out there looking to get healthy.
Yeah, even when I go back and look at a YouTube video that I made 2 years ago, I'm like, oh, I look like shit, you know? And so I have to now say this because somebody called me out on Twitter and accused me of having had some kind of dermatological procedure done. I have not had any plastic surgery. I have had no anything, no laser, no anything. Not that I wouldn't do that sometime in the future if I start to look old, but I haven't done any of that stuff. No Botox, no fillers, no nothing. And yeah, literally, you can look at a video from 2 years ago and then compare it to my latest YouTube video, and you're like, it looks like his younger brother.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah, it's crazy.
and now one of the controversies I like to clear up on the podcast is what since you've lived in a house with Danny Vega now, do you think those arms are they real? Or those
No,
implants? I
they're
mean,
yeah. I've actually spent a couple of weekends with Danny Vega, and we're not going to, what happens with Vega stays with Vega. But yeah, no, those arms are real, and that's like when he gets up in the morning, unless he's doing chin ups in his bedroom before he comes out. Those arms are 100% real.
it's amazing. And he's got
Yeah.
veins in his arms the size of most man arms.
Yes.
That's how I
Yes.
describe it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly right.
Enough about Danny Vega. So the one of the benefits of having you on is that you are approaching all this from a medical and a medical caregiver perspective. So, what really made you go and flip that switch and be like, "Yeah, I'm going to experiment this with myself and my own health, but also I feel confident enough to really, preach this what I'm
Yeah,
practicing, to my people that I'm
right.
trying to help with their own health." So, how did that switch get flipped?
So I grew up in the deep, deep South, and that is a place where nobody likes for their neighbor to get ahead, and they will call you on your shit immediately. So if you're trying to be two faced, or if you're trying to put on airs, as we say down here, or put on a show, or pretend like you're something you're not. People are going to call you on that immediately, and they're all going to talk about you over coffee at McDonald's every morning. Like that's just going to happen. And so I was raised to be a very common sense matter of fact. One plus one has to be two, regardless of how you feel about that. And so when I was becoming this fat doctor, I was not leading by example. Obviously, I didn't know what I was talking about for my own self. So how in the world could I pretend to know how you should take care of your health and what you should eat? And I can remember very clearly an older lady. She was probably in her 70s. I was telling her that she needed to lose a little weight, and as I was saying that, her eyes flitted down to the button of my shirt over my belly button that was in danger of bursting at any second. And I saw her eyes go down and back just like in a tenth of a second, and I was like, yeah, you're right. I'm full of shit. Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. And it was kind of that was an epiphanous moment. I was like, wow, yeah, that does sound really stupid coming from a fat guy trying to tell somebody they need to lose some weight. And so that was kind of, and then also I been over to tie my shoe one morning and got short of breath. I'm like, what? This is ridiculous. What in the world?
Yeah.
I said, I have to have learned something wrong, or I have to have missed something. And so I went and got all my nutrition notes from med school and brought them down out of the attic. And you may be imagining me balancing these huge tomes and these things, but it literally the entire semester's notes is one semester, like one day a week for a semester, and the little paperback book was a half-inch thick, and so I literally could carry it down with my forefinger and my thumb. Went over all that, and I can sum that up. If anybody wants a medical school level of nutrition education, number one, eat lots of whole grain. Number two, avoid all saturated fat. Number three, jog. That's it. That's literally all I was taught about the care and feeding of healthy humans. Now, if you were in a rollover accident and got third-degree burns over 40% of your body, and you were in the burn unit or the ICU, I could calculate your calorie, your fluid, everything you needed to keep you from dying until you could eat food again. We were really taught well at that. But as far as just the average person with a spouse and a job and a kid and a dog, how should they eat for maximal health? We got literally whole grains, no fats, jog. That was it. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe I haven't been doing that. So for the next month, I tracked that. I jogged every day or every other day. I ate nothing but whole grains, and I ate zero saturated fat for a month, and I gained another 5 pounds. I was like, okay, yep, there's something here that's not right. So it's back to the drawing board as far as nutrition goes. And that's when I read those three books I
Yeah.
mentioned previously and thought, well, everything they're saying is exactly upside down and backwards. But maybe, I mean, obviously what I'm doing ain't working.
Right.
And I was checking labs on myself every 6 months. So I knew there wasn't some weird metabolic condition, or I was just eating, I was just fat and pre diabetic. And so I said, I'm just going to try it for a month or two, see what happens. And I think that's the one message I want anybody listening to take away is you're never going to hurt yourself by trying a month of anything nutritionally, but it might give you immediate amazing feedback like, yeah, that's the direction you need to go in. And your month-long experiment, that may not be what you need to do for the rest of your life, but you're going to learn something from that. And you can say, oh, okay, when I eat more of that, I feel better, or I look better, or whatever. Then you can learn from that and apply that to the rest of your life. And so after a month or two of basically primal paleo ancestral, I was down 10 or 15 pounds, felt better. My eczema, I wasn't having to put hydrocortisone on it 3 times a week to keep it at bay. I mean, my rosacea. And I thought, well, okay, so maybe there's something to this, but it's probably just a short term hack, right? Probably I wouldn't want to do this my whole life. And indeed, when I finally came to keto and started using keto for myself, I had, by the time I got to keto I went through paleo 2 or 3 years and then got to keto, I was down 40 pounds, 35, 40 pounds, and had reversed my prediabetes completely, had a normal A1C. And that's not supposed to be possible. And so you can imagine this little country doctor in this little bitty country town going, what did I just do? How's
Right.
that possible? That's not possible. You can't do that. It's chronic and progressive, right? And then all of my inflammatory markers were better. Back in the day, I had severe 10 of 10 GERD, reflux, heartburn every single day of my life. When the Nexium rep came to the clinic to give us samples, the patients didn't get the Nexium samples. I got all of them. I took them and took them to my cubby, and I took 2 a day for years, not knowing the danger of that, but
Wow.
also needing that because I literally couldn't say a complete sentence without swallowing and clearing my throat and trying to get it to do, it's just you're completely uncomfortable here when you have chronic reflux. That was 80% better. I would take an occasional Tums. That was it. I didn't take any
Wow.
of the Nexium anymore. And so, I mean, if anybody's had severe GERD, reflux, heartburn, they know what a huge deal that is. And so I thought, okay, I've been doing this for years now, kind of cut, and I didn't even think of it in terms of cutting the carbs back then. I just thought it was a hack I was doing. I was biohacking, right? So I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take my most morbidly obese patients with a BMI, a body mass index of 35 or greater. These guys are super unhealthy. Some of them were scheduled for gastric bypass. They were miserable constantly. They couldn't enjoy life at all. I said, I'm just going to start telling them about this diet, right? Because I mean, hell, they're on death's door anyway. I can't hurt them,
Yeah.
right? And so I picked about 10 of those guys, and when they would come in for their routine thing where I used to just would increase the medicine or add a medicine and check some labs and say, yeah, you're fatter than you were last time, let's try to work on that. I told them about what I was doing, and I basically told, and the guys loved it. The women really freaked out by it. And I would say, out for the next month, I want you to eat beef, bacon, butter, eggs, and that's it. Basically, I want you to live on steak and ground beef and eggs and butter and bacon. And they're like, "Are you kidding?" I'm like, "No, I want you to do it for 30 days and just see. And you can eat as many times a day as you want. You can eat as much as you want. If you're still hungry, eat another pound of steak, eat another pound of bacon, eat another pound of eggs and butter." And they're like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm serious. Just do it for a month." Like I said earlier, you can't kill yourself in a month of doing anything. And so these guys, and I would say do that for a month and then go back to whatever you want to do and come back in 3 months or 6 months or whatever their routine scheduled return visit was. And these guys would come back in a month and schedule their own appointment and go, dude, I've lost 20, 30, 40 pounds. I feel great. My knee, it's not even hurting anymore. Can I do this for another month? And I'd be like,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah, you can do it for one more month, but come see me before you do it for a third month. And so they really thought they were cheating and doing this terrible thing, but it was making them feel so great that they're like, "Can I do it for another month, doc?" And uniformly, the women, when I would tell them, they would look at me like something was wrong inside my head. And but then a few of them tried it, and as we can talk about later with the carnivore diet, the people who I see blossom and bloom and just almost, it's almost like a rebirth, is older women who try the carnivore diet. They get better results. I mean, they literally become the woman they want to be again. It's magical when a woman goes carnivore. But when they would do that, they would have the same exact results. They'd lose 15, and they didn't lose as much as the men. So they'd lose 10, 15, 20, 25 pounds and be like, oh my gosh, my fill in the blank is so much better. My irritable bowel, my anxiety. And I was like, there's no way that the food you eat affects all these things, right? Because the common sense idea that you're made of what you eat, and if you build your body, have good building blocks, and your body's going to function better, and that includes physically and mentally, that's dumb. I mean, that's just too commonsensical. That can't be actual science, right? And so I kept thinking of this as a hack, and then eventually I lowered the bar. Anybody who was morbidly obese, so if they had a BMI of 30 or higher, I came up with a little 20-page handout that just basically said, eat these things, don't eat any of these things. And would just hand it to them and say, look, if you're tired of feeling this way and tired of weighing this, try this for 1 month. And that's literally after the one. And so there was, they didn't have to sign up. They didn't have to pay anything. They didn't have to buy anything. They just ate this food and avoided this food for a month. And without exception, they all came back in saying, wow, I feel better when I eat that way. And so I was slowly shifting my own paradigm of, it doesn't matter what humans eat. We're magical. We can eat anything and we turn it into good, healthy, lean human body, to, gosh, it really kind of matters what we eat. And if they're for the average doctor, that's a huge epiphany. Like, oh, it matters. Oh, not joking. It really is like a huge wake up moment for the average doctor,
Yeah.
because they think they can get away with eating whatever, and they think their patients are gonna eat whatever. So why even fight that fight? But what I found is, almost without exception, people are interested when you talk to them about nutrition and diet. Most doctors think, oh, they're not going to do it anyway. Why would I waste my time? Well, actually, doctor, what you're doing when you're just raising the medication and refilling and telling them to lose to eat less and move more, that's when you're wasting their time, and you're
Yeah.
also wasting their health span and their lifespan. So
Yeah.
you maybe should think about that.
Well, and you've mentioned a couple of times that, I mean, people come to their doctor for validation and for confidence in what they're
Yeah,
doing. And like,
yeah,
is this safe? Will I die if I do this or if I don't do this? So
yeah,
that might lead to the next question that pops up is like, what misconception about low carb, keto, carnivore that's out there that you're hearing that people are scared of? Like, if you could just
yeah,
erase one of those things and give
yeah.
people
Well, let's
confidence
erase them
around it.
all. Let's just globally erase them all and be done with it. So, as I intimated earlier, I considered this to be a short-term hack. It worked, no doubt, but I thought that you don't want to do that forever. You don't want to eat, beef, butter, bacon, and eggs forever, do you? I mean, you want to go back to eating lots of fruit and lots of vegetables and lots of bread and drinking your fruit juice. And so the more I've read, and so I started actually branching out into archaeology and anthropology and paleoanthropology. And I started reading about stable isotope analysis. Like, no doctor reads it, no medical doctor reads this stuff, right? And I found out that it's not a mystery what people ate 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 years ago. We can do the carbon and nitrogen, the strontium, stable isotope analysis, and we can know, did these people eat mostly seafood? Did they eat mostly large herbivores? Did they eat mostly vegetables? We can know that. That's a knowable thing. And paleoanthropologists, they know without a doubt that during the entirety of our history on this planet as Homo sapiens sapien, which is what we've been for the last 200, 250,000 years, we have eaten as much fatty meat as we could get our hands on, without exception. And that could be fatty seafood, that could be fatty herbivores. Like, there used to be huge elephants everywhere and woolly mammoths. There used to be these huge armadillo type of animals that were the size of a Volkswagen Beetle. And these things, we figured out, hunting as a tribe, are very easy. Even though they're huge, they're very easy to kill as a group, right? You just basically ran them till they're exhausted, and then you just kept poking them with your stick until they died, and then you cooked them and ate them. And so we learned these strategies, and then all of a sudden we had all this fatty meat on our hands, and our brains got bigger, we got smarter, everything got better eating lots of fatty meat. And so, what I would tell everybody, if you'll stop thinking of keto or carnivore or low carb as the fad, because it's actually not the fad, it's actually the rediscovery of how we've eaten our entire existence on this planet. What the fad has been for the last 50 or 60 years is low fat, is whole grains, is lots of fiber, is lots of fruit juices, is lots of, and they'll always say fruit and veg, right? But
Yeah.
then they know everybody's going to eat 90% fruit and 10% veg. And if you're going to say that at all, you should say veg and fruit,
Right.
because the veg definitely needs to be in the majority of the carbs you take in. That's the fad. That low fat, lots of whole grains. That is the fad diet. It has only been around for the last 50 or 60 years. Before that, and even 100 years ago, if you'd have said, I'm just going to eat lots of grains and beans, and I'm just not, I mean, they would have looked at you like you were moronic. unless you were super devout religious and you were trying to deny yourself. That's the only time that kind of diet has made sense in human history ever. So if you were the local shaman or the local witch doctor or the local priest, and you were going to deny yourself to get closer to God, which I'm not mocking that. I'm just saying that's how they thought. Then you would deny yourself beef, butter, bacon, eggs, stuff like that, and you would just live on beans and grains. Also, if you are a student of archaeology or history, you'll realize that every dictator, every emperor, every king found out very early in their reign that if you want to keep a lot of people from starving to death cheaply, as cheaply as possible, you're going to feed them lots of grains and lots of beans. Now they're not going to live much past 50, but you'll get 25, 30 years of good hard labor out of them, and they're not going to die quickly, so they'll never accuse you of poisoning them, right? They're just going to die slowly in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and then also that way you don't have a lot of old people on your hands. You got a pretty young population who can make bricks or who can make boulders or whatever you need them to do, build pyramids. But that's the diet you feed them, and that's been verified in multiple studies of slaves, the stable isotope analysis of their bones, and then also gladiators. A lot of people think gladiators were these illustrious heroes, but they were slaves. They were captured prisoners or slaves who were made to fight till they die, and they were fed beans and grains because, I mean, they're slaves. You're not going to waste money feeding them beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. You're going to feed them grains and beans. And so, what everybody needs to understand is that the theory that we're supposed to eat lots of grains and lots of beans and eat super low saturated fat and not eat eggs and not eat butter, that is a fantastic assumption. That's a huge assumption. And as Carl Sagan said, anytime you come at me with an assumption that's so just crazy out there, you better have some damn good evidence to back that up. And all the evidence that we have to back this up is very poorly done epidemiological research that's based on very unreliable food frequency questionnaires. That's what this entire fad has been based on. And then there's been tons of research studies that showed actually, the more saturated fat people eat, the longer they live, the less heart attacks they have. That kind of research has been buried in basements and hidden in attics. And now it's being rediscovered. Oh no, actually back in the 60s, they did this huge study on a metabolic ward or a psych ward where these people couldn't escape and go eat a Snickers. They had to eat what was on the plate in front of them. We know without a doubt that they had fewer heart attacks and they lived longer if they were eating lots of good, healthy, fatty meat.
Right.
And when people can shift their way of thinking about this, just because your mama told you about it doesn't mean that's the way it's always been. Your mama's just as susceptible to fads as you are, and your mama was taught incorrectly that you should eat that way. And so you heard it from the age of 2 up, especially if you're a woman. Eat smaller portions, step away from the table before you're full, use a smaller plate, all these obscene, offensive things. It would be like telling your cat, you just need to eat beans and grains, and that you just eat that. That's what you need to eat. That's cat abuse, right? Cats are carnivores. They're supposed to eat nothing but meat. But people don't know that. And there are actually vets out there who have websites about how to convert your cat to a vegan diet. Cat abuse, I mean, that is animal cruelty because it's a known biological medical fact. Cats are carnivores. That's what
Yep.
they're supposed to eat. But so many people see their cats as little teddy bears instead of wild animals that if you died in the house, they would eat you after a day or two. They would not care. They think that they need to feed their cat grains and beans and pea protein. But that's cat abuse. And then feeding human beings the diet that's been preached to us for the last 50 years, that's human abuse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
So
that shot them all in the head, didn't it?
yeah,
All the
yeah.
all the fads and theories.
Yeah, yeah. So, and just I don't want to miss out on giving your book a little bit of a plug. The lies that our doctor is telling us. I mean, that book is amazing because again, it's the confidence factor and the one of the big scary conversations that a lot of people have with their doctor. They go keto, they go low carb, They go see
Yep.
their doctor, their cholesterol is up, and their doctor's like, this is a problem.
Yeah.
How should the average patient deal with that? Like, what should they say to, like, their doctor wants to put them on cholesterol
Yeah.
meds, and is like, how does that
Well, first
conversation go?
thing, sure. First thing is a shifting of how you think about your doctor. Your doctor is a human just like you are. He puts on his pants, she puts on her skirt just like you do. They have fights with their spouse. They probably have an addiction problem you don't know about. They have secrets just like you do. They're ashamed of things that they do just like you are. They are human. And with that being said, that means they can be wrong, and they can be hugely wrong. Just like if you're a Baptist and your next door neighbor is an atheist, you might love your neighbor. They might be your best friend, but you know in your heart of hearts they're wrong. And that depends, whichever neighbor's shoes you happen to be in, that's what you think about your other neighbor. They're hugely wrong about that. There's no way that's true. I know I'm right, and that means they have to be wrong. Doctors can be just that wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you which one I think is wrong of the two neighbors, but it doesn't matter because one of them has to be wrong and hugely wrong. But they both have a job, they both have a career, they both have a family, they both are living their life, and they look pretty normal from the outside looking in. Doctors are the same way. They can be hugely wrong, and they can buy into fads just like you have. And most doctors, just like me back in 2002, 2003, was completely sold on low fat, lots of whole grains, eat your fruits and veg, and mainly fruits because that's what tastes good, and drink lots of fruit juice, make fruit juice smoothies. All that stuff is healthy. I would have went out in the back alley and fought with you if you had railed on that diet too much. I'd have been like, dude, who's the doctor here? We'll go out back and because I'm a Southern boy. We'll go out back. If I can't convince you in the boardroom, I'll convince you in the alley out back. I don't care. But either way, you're gonna know that I know what I'm talking about. But the problem is I didn't. And so your doctor's not your boss. Your doctor, no, never when your doc prescribes a medicine do you have to take that medicine. There's no law. There's no social moray that says you have to do what your doctor says. You should look at your doctor as a learned health partner. Now, and just like your mechanic, if your mechanic says, "Oh gosh, your car, the dummy light came on, you need a new motor and a new transmission," would you just blindly believe your mechanic and say, "Okay, it's $18,000. Yeah, go ahead and do it because you said it"? You'd be like, "Oh, okay, I'm going to go up the road and see what Joe says about that." You have that same power with your doctor. Your mechanic is your learned mechanical partner. Your doctor is your learned health partner. And so definitely listen to your doctor. Definitely consider what your doctor has to say because we went to school for a long damn time. But at the same time, realize your doctor's human and they are susceptible to the fallacies and fads and errors that any other human being is. And then you can start to have an intelligent conversation with your doctor. You can be like, I know you believe that I need to take this, but I would really like to see the research. And that's like if your doctor wants to put you on Lipitor, Zocor, Crestor, any of the statins, Lovastatin, and say, well, I understand you believe. And if you put it that way, that kind of points out the obvious fact that there's no proof. You just believe that. I'd love to see the study that shows beyond a doubt that that's going to decrease my risk of a heart attack and help me live longer because that's what we all want to do. We want to live as long as we can. Your doctor's not going to be able to find that research anywhere in the world because it doesn't exist. And so not only are they going to stop yelling at you about the statin, they may learn something themselves. And that's a really sexy thing when a patient teaches a doctor something because you may just be a hairdresser or a mechanic or a librarian or whatever, but if you're able to wake your doctor up a little and move their paradigm, you got to remember they're a doctor to 500, 1,000, 2,000 patients, right? And so you just affected those 2,000 people by helping your doctor understand the concept that he or she was having trouble with. And that's very powerful to be able to do that as just a citizen thinker, a citizen scientist to go, I've been looking into this a little bit and I can't find a study that shows that taking a daily statin is going to increase my lifespan any more than 2 or 3 days. And that's not worth it to take this pill and pay a $20 copay for the next 40 years. Do you know of another study that shows that it's going to increase my lifespan by 10, 20, 30 years? Because in that case, I'll take the Zocor Lipitor. But if all you can find is the same study I found that says that on average it increases my lifespan by 3 or 4 days, I'm not interested in paying thousands of dollars and taking a pill every day for the rest of my life to get 3 extra days. Uh, when you have that kind of conversation with your doctor, first of all, your doctor has more respect for you, even though it may piss them off temporarily, because they know you're a thinker and they know you're invested in your health. And any good doctor is going to be glad that their patient is invested in their health and interested and eager to eat the right things and do the right things. That's a great patient. But a lot of doctors are at first offended, or they become upset with that patient because
Yeah.
they're not used to that. Most patients are just like sheep. You say go that way and they go that way.
Right.
And that's what doctors get used to because that's easy. You get lazy. Just do what I say and shut up. And they're like, okay, yes, doctor. But when a patient says, well, wait a minute, I got on PubMed.gov and I looked up some studies. I can't find a big study that really shows that statins change the world. What study are you basing your practice on? Oh my God, what a statement to say to your doctor. And let me say this, as a doctor telling you to say that, that is, if you say it respectfully, that is not disrespectful. That's not criminal. That's not immoral. That's you protecting your one life from a guy or a gal who may be spouting a fad diet or maybe spouting what the drug rep, who was really cute, who was just in, brought them some donuts, they may be just regurgitating because they're human being just like you, and they're susceptible to all those tricks that big pharma can use to help persuade a doctor into thinking he or she's super smart, and even smarter if they prescribe this pill to every patient.
So I know that I've got medical professionals that are listening in, and I actually have referred several of my connections within the audience to watch what you are doing. I'm like, just follow in his footsteps. Where would you refer those people if they're like, okay, I've got to get my shit together. I need to
Yeah,
understand this better. In
yeah.
addition to obviously your YouTube page, your Instagram, all your info that you put out is great. Your books, like where else can they go for resource just to get more information and get their information correct?
Well, I would advise every healthcare provider, whether you're an MD, a DO, a chiropractor, a physician assistant, advanced practice nurse, to read my book, Lies My Doctor Told Me. Everybody thinks I wrote that book just for patients, but there's actually an entire chapter that's just for healthcare providers towards the end of the book. And read all the books so that you're aware that some of the things you may have been telling your patients are based on nothing but opinion. And that's going to give you pause. You're going to be like, so you're telling me I've been telling my 500 patient patients they should do this. Every single one of them, I've been telling them that. And there's no research to back that up. I mean, for a doctor or a healthcare provider, that's like, shit. That's not. I should probably look into that instead of blindly believing the drug rep or blindly believing that doctor who was paid $5,000 to give that talk at Ruth's Chris last month, and where we got the free steak and the free two free drinks. Right? I should probably do some, since I'm leading these 500 people with their health. I should probably know what the hell I'm talking about. And I think that's a great wake up call when you start to question everything. For healthcare providers out there, a very common myth that still just won't die is that if you have diverticulosis, you should avoid eating nuts and seeds because it could cause bouts of diverticulitis. And there's actually a huge study I talk about in the book that was published in the Journal of the American Medical Association that was a huge study of 15,000 patients with diverticulosis. And they found without exception that being obese, that smoking and eating processed foods, so basically ground up grains and beans, that's what causes flare ups of diverticulitis. The more nuts and seeds people ate, the fewer bouts of diverticulitis they had. But yet, even the most preeminent gastroenterologist in the country, if you go see them, one of the things they're going to tell you is watch out for nuts and seeds, and it's based on zero research. And that's one of the first lies that really woke me up. And I'm like, so you're telling me I've been telling all my 2,000 patients to avoid nuts and seeds, and it's literally some guy's opinion, and it's based on no research. Are you kidding me? And that was a huge wake up call. It's like, okay, well, what else am I wrong about? And when a healthcare provider asks that question to themselves in the mirror in the morning before their coffee, what else are you wrong about, Bubba? What else are you out there spouting like it's gospel and it's just based on nothing? When a healthcare provider starts to think that way, that's huge. That's the moment when you actually start to become a good or even a great healthcare provider. You cannot blindly believe anybody from the drug rep to the preeminent doctor from Harvard who said this, that, or the other. You've got to think and you've got to study and you've got to read and you've got to read outside your specialty, whether that's OBGYN, family, internal, it doesn't matter. You got to read outside that, because if you just read with your blinders on and you never look around you. I just read a book called Range, and it's a brilliant book that would help any doctor understand the way of thinking that I'm talking about. Most of us are nose down in our little trench. Every doctor's nose down in their little trench, right? And they're just working like crazy, but they never look around and look what other people are doing in their trench. And when you start to do that and start to say, well, what's paleoanthropology say about it? What's archaeology? What did people eat 2,000 years ago? What did rich people eat? What did the slaves eat? What about 50,000 years ago? What did they eat? At that point, you start to realize I've been sold a bill of goods. I'm basically practicing medicine based on a bunch of opinions and a bunch of fads. And that's probably bad medicine. I should probably stop that. And I think, but I ninja like wrote Lies My Doctor Told Me for healthcare providers, but everybody thinks it's for the patients.
A little Trojan horse action, right?
Yep, that's it. You got it.
Nice. I love that. Now, I know that people out there listening will want to plug into your world. And like one of the Instagram pages I am addicted to is yours, and your Instagram TV videos that you're putting out there. And they're just so good. Like I will rarely sit and watch an entire Instagram TV video, and I watch all of yours because I'm like, this is really good info. I need to be understanding these
Oh,
concepts.
thanks, man. Thank you.
So, but what's the best way to plug into your world and just kind of get connected to what you have going on?
So I try to be on all social media because I know that different people, their personality meshes and blends with different social media. So people who are super snarky and salty, I'm going to talk to them on Twitter, right? And people who are family people, who you just normal, good, salty earth people, I'm going to talk to them on Facebook. And good salty earth people who are a little younger, I'm going to talk to them on Instagram. And here lately, I've got a TikTok. So now I'm talking to the teenagers about acne and about heavy periods and about eczema and stuff. So they can watch somebody jump off a bridge, and then they can watch a 30-second video of me saying, "Hey, if you'll stop drinking the fat-free skim milk, your acne will get better." And so I try to reach out, and and then YouTube. If people want longer content, my videos are anywhere from 5 to 25 minutes, depending on the topic. You can just go to YouTube and search for Dr. Barry and then fill in whatever medical condition that you have or you're interested in. I've probably got a video about that.
Yeah, you're putting out content like a
Yeah.
machine, man. It's
Yeah.
impressive. As somebody that puts out a lot of content, I'm impressed with the volume that you're getting out and the quality. That's the thing. It's not
Yeah.
saturated down like, oh, this is an okay one. Like all of them are okay. I'm there for the
Well, let
whole
me tell
ride.
you why I put out why I'm so driven and why I put out so much content and why I'm working on 2 new books and why I've got I'll just show you. I know we're audio, but this is like literally my bedroom, my dining room table, which I've taken over. My entire office is filled with, every time I have an idea, I write it down and then I start doing research about it. The reason I'm doing this and I'm doing it in such a driven fashion is because in the first few years of my medical practice, I hurt people. I gave people terrible advice. I maybe even killed people by giving them the stupid, ignorant advice that I was taught and that I honestly believed was right. I harmed people. And so basically, when I figured this out, this is not a fad, this is not a hack, this is the proper human diet. When I figured that out, I dedicated the remainder of my career and probably the remainder of my life. I can't see me retiring and just sitting still ever in my life. I dedicated the entire remainder of my human life and my medical career to righting those wrongs, to making up for the damage I've done. And when you hurt somebody and they lose a leg, that's hard to make up for. You can't just make one TikTok and say, "Oh, there you go. I'm done." No, I've got to help thousands of people,
Yeah.
tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people to try to somehow, in my mind and in my heart, make up for the damage I did back when I was an ignorant doctor giving terrible advice. That's why I work so hard.
And you're making a real difference, and that's why your messages really resonate with what I'm doing, because it's a similar vein of like we're here to impact people, we're here to help people, we're here to lend energy until people can kind of build
Yeah,
up their own energy, right? So along that vein, I love to leave our audience with a little bit of an action step of, let's say there's somebody that's out there that's been a little bit fearful of the perfect human diet, in your, the terminology that I love that you use, and going lower carb, going against the grain of what their medical professional might be telling them. But now
sure.
they're ready. They're ready to walk down that path a little bit. What's something they can do in the next 24 hours just to get the ball rolling in the right direction?
Yeah, so we'll just go through the 3 steps, okay? And they're super easy. You can start to implement it as soon as this podcast is over. You can go to your kitchen, or your back seat, or your bathroom, wherever you hide your stash. Step one: get rid of all sugar from your diet. Human beings have no need whatsoever to eat any form of sugar unless they're trying to gain weight for the winter. That's the only reason we've ever eaten sugar in our entire existence on this planet, is if we happened upon a honey tree, we ate the heck out of it and laid around in the sugar coma for 3 days. But that was once every year or two that we found that, and we wanted to tolerate all the stings, right? But in the fall, in temperate regions, all the berries get ripe, all the fruit gets ripe, and we would eat as much as we could to gain 5 or 10 pounds, so that we could go through the winter when there was no food without starving to death. We did that every single year. And you can see that in bears before they hibernate. They'll eat every berry they can get their hands on so they can get as fat as they possibly can for the winter. We did that. We mimicked that. So stop all sugars. That includes organic, locally sourced honey. That includes organic, non GMO agave nectar. None of that stuff do you need. It's just as bad as corn syrup. It's just as bad as sugar out of the sugar bowl from your grandmother's table. Stop eating sugar. And then more importantly, stop drinking sugar. Drinking an 8-ounce glass of orange juice is just like drinking a Coke that you sprinkle some vitamin C into. That's very literally the same thing. They have the same effect on your liver, the same effect on your blood sugar. Fruit juice is bad for human beings. We never drank it until the big company said, we got a lot of oranges. We should squeeze them and sell the juice. That's when humans started drinking a lot of orange juice back in the 20s or 30s. Never before that did we do that. Number two, stop eating all grains. This includes definitely wheat, rice, oats, and corn, but also amaranth, millet, quinoa, rye, all these things. That's part of the slave diet. Now, if you want to not starve to death and live to be in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, eat lots of grain, because you'll do that. But you'll also be inflamed. You'll have eczema. You'll have heartburn. You'll have irritable bowel. You'll have all this other stuff. But if you want to live your best life, you're going to stop all grains, because grains are not food for human beings. Step three, you're going to stop all industrial seed oils. This is canola oil. This is soybean oil. Those are the two biggest oils used in America. That also includes safflower, sunflower, peanut oil, all these things where you have to send the seed or the nut to the factory where it's chemically extracted, and then deodorizers and bleachers are used on it. That's not a natural oil. It has a high omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. It's going to cause inflammation in your body somewhere. And some people, that's their skin, and some people it's their gut, and some people like me, it's their right knee joint. That's where I know when I've been eating crap, that's where I start to feel it. Stop all those oils. Use real fats. Use butter, use ghee, use bacon grease, use beef tallow, use avocado oil, use coconut oil, use olive oil. Those are real oils that humans have been eating for thousands and thousands of years. And the animal fats we've been eating for hundreds of thousands of years. So don't come at me and say, oh, saturated fat is bad for you. That's only been the case for the last 50 years, when we think we're smarter than we actually are. When you look at the totality of human existence on this planet, we ate animal fat every single day of our life. And we had an 8-pack, and we were healthy, and we could kick ass. So if you want to change your life, and no doctor, if you go to your doctor and say, hey, doc, I'm going to stop eating all sugar, your doctor's going to be like, boom, good job, do that. And most doctors, if you say, I'm going to stop eating a lot of added oil and like processed fried foods with grains, like, tortilla shells and jelly donuts and pizza crust, they'll be like, good, yeah, you need to stop that. But if you say, I'm going to start the keto diet, then they're going to freak out. But that's the first 3 steps to eating a ketogenic diet. That's the first three steps, is eliminating those three huge things. And the average person listening, if they'll just do the first three steps, their health is going to improve noticeably. And then you can quibble about, oh, high protein, high fat, oh, beans, no beans, oh, you know what I'm saying? Nuts, no nuts. You can quibble about that stuff later, because you're going to feel so much better. You'll actually feel like getting some exercise and maybe doing some research. Step one,
Yes.
step two, step three, start right now.
Simple. And I always talk about setting your implementation alarm, guys. And I think Dr. Ken has given us so much that we can implement here, and set that alarm for the next 24 hours and just do something, take action, get the ball rolling. And Dr. Ken, I know that you could be in about 1,001 different places right now. And I appreciate you reserving some time to invest in me, our audience, this show, because it's just high value. And I'm super psyched that we had this time together.
No, I'm totally stoked that we had this chat. I immediately felt a kinship with you when we met in Omaha. You're my kind of people. You're trying to change the world, and that's pretty sexy. And so it was an honor to hang out with you for this time, and we definitely can do it again in the future if you'd like.
Oh yes, 100% on that. I will save this audio clip just in case you ever try to back out, Dr. Ken. Uh, so
Perfect.
everybody, I already mentioned the implementation alarm. Set it for 24 hours from now and take action on something, because that, my friends, is how we get out there and we own it. Every meal, every workout, every day. I will see you on the next episode. Well, hey there, good looking. I want to say thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Million Pound Mission podcast. And I've got a favor to ask you. If this episode made an impact for you, would you share it out with one person? Help me spread the message of the Million Pound Mission and add some fuel to the fire of our goal to achieve 1,000,000 pounds of amazing results. And speaking about that 1,000,000 pounds, if you haven't gone to millionpoundmission.com lately and donated your weight loss, please do it, or I'll never reach my goal. So head on over to millionpoundmission.com, donate that weight, and spread the word that we are on a 1,000,000 pound mission together.